one of of course, you can say that the things that are developing now, because it's getting a really safe alternative to use a sperm bank, is that all of a sudden you'll see more and more single women using sperm banks. At the same time, of course, what's also happening is that people get older and older, and there are more and more single people in the world. So if the woman is reaching the age of 40, she has to make a decision if she really wants children. She can't, if the guy on the white horse hasn't shown up.
Yeah.
What
really about married couples where the man is sterile or something? Do you get married couples?
Oh yeah, a lot of those. A lot of those, of course. That's once you read that decision, it's either, of course, no children, or adoption, or it is to use a sperm bank.
And that's when they try to match the donor.
Yes, we'll do a lot of photo matching, where we'll get photos of the husband and try to match a donor. And it actually works out really well. Of course, since we are right now selling Scandinavian sperm, it's mostly people with North European looks. But as now we're getting more and more, we have now all kinds of donors coming in here in New York. We can then, of course, help a lot more couples, because people try to, again, find a good matching donor. That's what it's all about. Yeah. Well, of course, the details that are available to single women, I think it's the same. It's the same that goes for all of them. The only difference is that the single woman doesn't have a lesbian partner, or it doesn't have a husband. So all of a sudden, there's nobody else there to make a decision for them. So there was an article in the New York Times where they kind of had the headline was like "Finding Love at the Sperm Bank." I don't know if they're finding love here, but they're definitely finding a donor. But there is some sort of course, you can say that they don't fall in love with the donor, but they really spend a lot of time really picking the donor, and they have a lot of freedom in picking a donor. And I think it's sometimes it's a really a fun process helping them out, and it's great that we can help them find somebody that they can use, and I think it's an interesting perspective also for them to have children this way, because it's not like somebody says, oh, you just went out and find somebody. They actually have a great explanation to tell them what's happened, and I think that gives them also a lot of acceptance at the same time.
A few years ago, a Nobel Prize winner started a very different scheme from yours.
Yeah.
It was he tried to get other Nobel Prize winners to donate. Yes, and this came in for an awful lot of controversy.
Yes,
he was,
yes.
Rubbished all through the press and
Yes.
announced and everything. What's your feeling about that kind of approach, of actually kind of approaching admired donors?
Well, my approach is really down to earth. Maybe it's because my grandfather was a farmer from the north of Denmark, but I tell patients the story about the Nobel Prize winner and the supermodel who decided to have children, and they get his looks and her brain.
Yeah.
And that's what I keep telling people: you can't design babies. Designer babies has been such a buzzword every time I've had journalists here. Designer babies, and they think that there's some sort of people choosing the perfect child, but you can't do that. And the new thing I've started telling people about is, what happened to the Einsteins? Where's Albert's children? Where are they now? His wife was a scientist, and he was one of the smartest people of this.
You want to be careful though, because otherwise you'll talk your women out of even bothering to try. I mean, if
because they want to have children.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sell the idea.
Talk them out of bothering to look at the checklist and
well, I think
choose.
it's great. I think it's crazy that in the United States you see a more and more demand for information about the donors, and that the sperm banks are going on with it. I think baby pictures, I tell the patients, it's not going to tell anything about your child, but that's what you forget.
So you think they're wasting their time?
No. Because there's two things to it. One thing is trying to select a donor. The other thing is you have a woman who are told by her doctor, you got to find a sperm bank, you got to find a donor. She's sitting there, oh, okay, what then? Well, go home, go to the computer. All of a sudden you're sitting on a computer trying to pick a donor. I mean, you want to make sure that you're not picking some sort of crazy guy. So the baby picture is a way for them to just feel happy about the decision they make. It's more about just security than about picking the perfect donor.
But you said that it works choosing a donor who resembles the husband.
Yes.
So that means you're not saying that
No.
it doesn't work at
well,
all.
It works in the way that you can, of course, you can improve the likelihood. Instead of just picking a random donor, by picking one that shares the height and the weight and the build, you have a higher likelihood, of course, of getting a child that will resemble you.
But that's all that the Nobel Prize winner wanted to do. He wasn't guaranteeing you a genius.
No.
He was just saying you improve the likelihood.
Yeah.
And would you deny that?
I'm sure there is an improved likelihood. I'm not a geneticist, but I'm sure, of course, if you use a smart donor, I would think there is a higher likelihood. But it's you know, that's just part of the picture. What happens? What happens if he's a smart man but he's a psychopath?
Oh, sure, yes.
No, thank
that
you.
One probably was, by the way.
What happens? You know, and then there's, you know, for some people looks are very important. Some people that, you know, if you can play an instrument is important. You know, there's so many things that goes into it than just looks or intelligence. Like we actually one of the donors that have been really popular is actually the nicest guy.
And
I don't know how you put that in a formal, but he's the nicest guy.
Yes.
He's not the smartest guy.
Yeah.
He's not the best looking guy.
So how do they know? How do they know he's the nicest guy? But from his
he's actually written a really good extended profile about himself.
So
I've actually met the guy. That I can tell you the profile actually checks out. He is a really nice guy, and you read it. You can see he's a nice guy. And it comes for some reason. He can just make it comes across when you read his profile and you read the staff impression we put about it. He's a super nice guy. And I think that's like something that's the biggest kind of like where I had no idea that was going to happen, and that kind of makes me happy that the nicest guy gets picked.
Me too. Yeah, quite agree.
We have a chance.
Yes. Could we have a look at some of the profiles?
Oh, definitely. Let's just find. I can find one of the donors and one of the profiles. I think I have one right here. Yeah. So here's the profile. This is what the patient can look at. They can download it from the internet. They can read all kinds of things about him. You know, from just general characteristics, shoe size, and allergies, and skin tone, if he tans easily, how he placed in school, what languages he speaks, if he's been in the military. I don't know if there's military induced sperm, and if
favorite pet dog.
Favorite pet. If he's a smoker.
Likes James Bond.
He likes the Aston Martin. He likes jazz music, and just where he's traveled, what countries he's visited.
So he's Danish.
He's Danish. This guy's Danish. Yeah, that's one of our Danish donors. You can see his family history, mother and father, what they did. If he has any sisters and brothers. One of the interesting things also that this donor have is he actually has a long handwritten profile. So it actually gets really personal.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think it really, you know, of course, some people believe a lot in handwritten profile, but I think it actually, again, for the women, I think it's another reason that it really just, you know, makes them understand that this is it's not some dude.
Yeah, he says, finally, I wish you good luck and hope no matter if you choose my donation or not, that you will have a good experience. That's very nice.
Yeah, it is very nice.
His reason for becoming a donor, he gives two reasons. First, an easy way to make some money. He needed some money to finance his studying. And secondly, he wants to help other people, which is very positive, gives me personal pleasure and satisfaction.
Yeah.
And down the bottom he says, most important, I hope that you will have the most wonderful little boy or girl.
Great. Yes. I actually, you know, from learning the donors here too, they really mean that. You know, they really, of course, there's no secret about them liking that they get paid.
Yes.
But they really like that we help them out too. And another thing also I think they like too, and I think that comes a little bit back to the reproduction. We didn't finish that thing, and I haven't really talked to them about it. But one of the interesting things is that when you tell them they have good sperm quality, they get really happy. They like to hear that. You know, I don't know if it's just because they think they're more of a man, or they actually know that I can actually really reproduce if I choose to.
I think people like being good at anything, don't they?
Yes,
they like to have quick reflexes.
Yes.
They like to be good drivers. They like, good sperm is just another one.
Yeah. I think again it's very different from how they look at it. There are some that make a really quick decision, and the personal information doesn't mean so much to them. I think some also think it's ridiculous that they know that it doesn't matter if he likes James Bond. It has nothing to do with it. But they're definitely a lot of them also that take it extremely serious, and they spend hours and hours reading the profiles.
Yeah. Because they think it might affect the kind of child they get.
Yeah, they may think that it affected. When you ask them and you say, "Do you really think it matters?" They'll kind of like, I'm not sure, but it might as well
exercise the choice, given that I've got it.
Yes, exactly, and I think that's fine. You know, and might as well now we have the information online, and might as well go through it.
Yeah. Do you get the impression that they're choosing the sort of man that they would fancy if they were looking for a man, as opposed to just looking for sperm?
Well, that I haven't really. I think that's too personal of a question.
You wouldn't ask them that.
We don't ask them that. It's we don't have to estimate, and I think it's just going way too close to the patient.
But they do choose the nicest guy. That's your impression.
It was in the beginning. Now that we have supplied more information about the donors, we actually spreading out more of the sales. But in really when if the core was only the extended profile they could read, they really end up, even though we told them this guy is really, we have other donors say this guy tremendously good looking. The ladies in the staff say this guy he's a Brad Pitt, but they still didn't choose him. So and they choose. They definitely like the nicest guy to choose that guy.
Well, isn't that encouraging?
It is encouraging. Yeah. I also think it's encouraging also to know for the donors when we get to walk through the door. They don't have to be Superman when they walk through the door. They just have to be healthy, and they have to have good sperm quality. Those are really, and then of course be a nice guy. And luckily the donors that we've had here in New York are really nice guys. I like to talk to them and just make sure they are nice guys too, and that's what it turns out.
Yeah. Do you get requests for donors from way off in another part of the world sometimes?
Well, we have only we do sell to other countries, but in fact it's mostly, or it is just women that has traveled and lived in other countries. We don't get strange requests from a woman in Africa who wants to have a Danish donors. We haven't really seen that, and I've recently talked to a patient about it, and I think it's more about that you don't want to put your parenthood in question. So you want to try. That's why you try to find a donor that matches who you are.
Yes.
And at the same time, I also think that people revert to the mean. We want to look like our neighbors. Most of us. we don't want to be like Michael Jackson and be have designer babies. We want to look like very practical.